To order. This is the Chairman of the Wetlands Board, Clyde Wilbur. I'm calling this meeting to order. And before calling the roll, I'm going to read the COVID motions. To conduct this meeting wholly electronically and to effectuate both the emergency procedures authorized by FOIA, the Wetlands Board needs to make certain findings and determinations for the record. It's a bit cumbersome, so I ask you in advance for your patience. First, because each member of the Wetlands Board is participating in this meeting from a separate location, we must verify that a quorum of members is participating and that each member's voice is clear, audible, and at an appropriate volume for all other members. Accordingly, I'm going to conduct a roll call and ask each Wetlands Board member participating in this meeting to state your name and the location from which you are participating. I ask that each of you pay close attention to ensure that you can hear each of your colleagues. Following this roll call, we will vote to establish that every member can hear every other member. Catherine Herman, would you please call the roll?
Hello, I got my hair cut today. Do you like?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Hi, Mommy. How are you? You look beautiful.
1 second here.
You're good, guy.
Okay, so let's see here. We have Clyde Wilbur.
Clyde Wilbur participating from Springfield.
Great. Bert Kramer.
Present, Mount Vernon District.
Great. Dina Crumbling.
Present, participating from Rose Hill.
Okay. Dean Costello. We have a few folks calling in who I can't see their names on the screen here. So Dean, if you're out there, feel free to unmute yourself. Okay. Kim Larkin.
Kim Larkin, Mount Vernon District.
Great. John Collins. And Arlie Dade.
Hello, Orly Dade. I am participating from my home in Fairfax.
Great, thanks. So
at this point, I'd like to request that Kimberly Larkin accept the virtual gavel. Oh, by the way, first of all, do we have a quorum, Catherine?
Yes, we do.
Thank you. At this point, I request that Kimberly Larkin accept the virtual gavel to be the chairperson pro tem so that I may be heard to make the requisite motion. Kim, you accept the gavel.
I accept the gavel.
Okay.
I would like to, let me see here.
I make the motion.
Okay,
I move that
great.
each member's voice is adequately heard by each other member of the Wetlands Board. Kim,
Do
you
I have
the
any
gavel.
seconds?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Are there any seconds?
Does Dina have a second?
And the motion passes.
Did everyone
And I'll
vote?
hand it back to- Oh, sorry.
Call the vote, Kim.
I'll call the vote. I got a second to call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, any nays? Oh, great. All right, the motion passes, and I will pass the gavel back to Clyde.
Thank you very much, and I accept the gavel. So
Okay.
the next point on the agenda is for Catherine. Catherine, would you like to lead the remote participation policies?
sure. I would love to. And I will also be including Luis Nunez from the county attorney's office, who is one of our FOIA experts at the county, amongst many other areas of expertise. And I've asked him to join this part of our meeting so that he can help me make sure that I am talking through these two policy documents correctly. So just a little bit of a background. I did send an email on November 9th with some marked up versions of two policy documents that the Board of Supervisors and the County Attorney's Office would like all board and councils, like the Wetlands Board, to adopt. And luckily for the Wetlands Board, you all have already adopted the remote participation policy. So all the markup that I sent you all in November earlier this month included just a few revisions to that policy. So hopefully you all had a chance to take a look at that. And then there's a new policy. Again, these are all stemming from some changes at the General Assembly in how boards and commissions and authorities can meet. And then there's a new policy called the All Virtual Public Meeting Policy. And again, both of these policy documents are a result from legislative changes that were voted on by not only the General Assembly, but signed into law by the governor. And the County Attorney's Office took that information and created templates for the policies that communicate for our boards and commissions on how you all can operate in this environment. So I put the slide together with just a few summary bullet points here that I thought might be most helpful for the Wetland Board members and how you've had your meetings in the past, but to try to reiterate or summarize that so you all could still fully meet electronically if there is a state of emergency, whether that's declared by the governor or the County Board of Supervisors. Public bodies such as the Wetlands Board can hold all virtual public meetings 2 times a year or up to 25% per calendar year, whichever is greater, and they may not be held consecutively. And then one of the House bills, which was one of the legislative changes that I mentioned for House Bill 444, just specifies a new additional reason why a board member may participate remotely. I don't think this is necessarily really going to apply to any of us, but for anyone that's on this call, but if your principal residence is more than 60 miles from a meeting location, again, that's your principal or primary residence, that would allow you to participate remotely. And physical quorum is still required if it has an in-person component, meaning that everyone should be participating in person unless there is someone who happens to need to participate remotely. So Louis is going to back me up here and make sure that hopefully I communicated all this correctly. Speak up, Louis, if I jumbled that a bit, but
no, you know what, this stuff is not intuitive, right? This is so Catherine, you did yeoman's work here in pulling this together. So thanks for getting the ball rolling here. My name is Lou Nuzzo. I'm an assistant county attorney. I work on the FOIA team in the county attorney's office with Deputy County Attorney Cynthia Bailey, who some of you may know, as well as my colleague Sarah Anir, also Assistant County Attorney Sarah Anir. And we handle all the problems that are posed by FOIA in the county in terms of both public records as well as access to public meetings and the conduct of public meetings. So what you're asked to do this evening is investigate and vote on two policies. One is an update of your remote participation policy. The other is the all virtual public meeting policy. Both policies are reflective of the legislature's amendments to the FOIA code that went into effect as of September 1 of 2022. The remote participation changes didn't really change much, as Catherine has already outlined. The only real change there was that they've added a new reason to participate remotely, which is if your home is sick or your location, your residence is 60 miles away from the meeting location. There is no point in Fairfax County where any residents would be 60 miles away from the government center or other like county facility. I think this is only if we're gonna, this would be relevant to us if you guys had a meeting in Aruba or something like that. Then, the unfortunates who had to stay home would be able to at least do it remotely. Remember, with remote participation, the only way anyone can participate remotely is if the meeting itself involves a physical gathering of a quorum. All right, that is, you have to have a physical gathering of a quorum. That's the only way the remote participation policy can be employed. As opposed to the new all virtual meetings where you can't have a physical quorum gathered. And in fact, with the new policy that we're asking you to vote on this evening, no more than 2 members can gather at the same location in order to use that all virtual policy. Now, understand then that with the advent of COVID or prior to COVID, the public bodies in the Commonwealth, local public bodies in the Commonwealth, could only participate in electronic meetings if the governor, if the governor declared a state of emergency, and then 2, so long as the purpose of the meeting was to actually discuss the emergency itself. That was the only way we could do it prior to COVID. Once COVID came into play and we realized that it was going to be here for a long, long time, and that public bodies in our localities were not going to be able to conduct their public business unless we had some adjunct to the law. We eventually rolled out what is the electronic meeting policy or the electronic meeting portion of the code that you're meeting under tonight, which allows local public bodies to meet, because of the state of emergency COVID, but also to conduct its public business. So that is already in place. This type of meeting will remain in place until Fairfax County ends its state of emergency. However, what the legislature has done is said, you know what, these all electronic meetings are a great idea. This expands public participation in government, allows people to see what's going on to a greater extent. So, they are encouraging or allowing bodies to do this, whether or not a state of emergency is in place. So up to twice a year or 25% of your total meetings during the year, you are able to meet all virtually, whether or not a state of emergency is in effect. All right, regardless of the state of emergency. So that's basically what that second policy is all about. That's the all virtual meeting. All right. Catherine's gone through these requirements. This is basically it. We've got some, minute and notice requirements here. Those, basically don't change. that kind of thing. But what I would like to do is see if you have reviewed the policy and if you have any questions about either one of those policies, that is the remote participation or the all virtual policy. And if you don't have any questions, I won't be insulted if you don't. I'm happy to, to do whatever you need me to do tonight. If you want me to walk through each policy with you before you vote on it, I'm happy to do that. If you feel you've got a handle on this stuff, I'll leave you alone and let you get on with your lives and your business tonight. I know you've got my friend Mark Gorey's probably coming along a little bit later, so it's up to you. So let me ask this: are there any questions about either policy?
I have one.
Okay.
I have one about the all virtual public meetings,
Sure.
because our meetings are not like set every other month, or they're not set meetings. Some years we have 4 to 6, other years we have 2,
Mhm.
depending on how many applications we get.
Right.
So I guess what is is the 2 times safe for us to use to kind of meet the 25% criteria? Or
Right. If you go over, it's neither or. If our advice to our clients is, don't burn through more than 2 unless you are at more than 8 meetings, right? Doesn't that make sense? Right. So, just do what makes sense in that regard. As a matter of fact, with most of this stuff, if you follow the policy and sort of, do what makes sense in terms of what that policy or those policy documents say, you're going to be in good shape. You'll be fine. But also, if you have questions going forward, let's say you get to your 9th meeting, right? Then you can do a 3rd all virtual meeting, right? If you determine that's what you would like to do. And you get to round up. So, 9, 10, 11, you're at 3. You get to 12, bingo, 4. So there you go.
okay, thanks. Thank you.
Sure. Anyone else? Clyde, you have something?
Actually, what I'd like to do is call for someone to make a motion to adopt the new remote participation policy.
I move to adopt the new remote participation policy.
Do I hear a
Second
second?
that motion.
I believe there was a second. Who made the second?
Correct. It is Bert.
Bert, very good. Do we have any discussion? You can ask questions here again if you wish. Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. I would now entertain a motion for the new virtual. Did I do that in the wrong order? For the new all virtual public meetings policy.
I move to approve the all virtual public meetings policy.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second. It's Kim.
Is there any discussion or any questions? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Hi.
All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, well, thanks. If there are no other questions, thanks for having me. I'm one of those lawyers who can't stand the sound of his own voice, so I'll leave you guys in peace. And thanks again. Happy Thanksgiving belatedly.
Thank you very much and good night.
Good night.
Thanks, Louis.
Catherine, the next item on our agenda is your update on the routing of joint permit applications, including
Yes.
violations.
Yes. All righty. So I'm going to share the map I've shown before. Just obviously this is updated. I haven't had to make determinations of no permit necessary since we last met back at the end of August. So that's why you will not see any yellow boxes on the map. I did want to point out we've received one, maybe two newer applications that have come in that are still going through the process, that Mark Eversole and I go through, where we do a site visit and provide comments back to the applicant. One is, let's see here, 6045 River Drive. This application proposes to replace a partially failing bulkhead with new pilings and whalers. It's anticipated to be located 24 inches or less channelward of the existing bulkhead. I believe the Army Corps of Engineers has been working with the applicant, and I can't remember if BMRC submitted different comments since I sent some combined comments for Mark Eversole and I back in August. So we put together some preliminary comments. This is a pretty substantial structure. I have a couple pictures, but the applicant is going to need to do a lot more research. And like I said, the Corps had some pretty significant comments about the actual proposed placement of the new bulkhead. So that application is still in process. So I will continue to keep you all updated on that. If we have a site visit, I will let you know. Mark Eversole and I went out. Oh gosh, maybe that was July, Mark, or maybe it was August as well, where we went out and met with the property owner. So more to come on this one as it progresses. And I will say that the failing bulkhead is not in bad shape. There's just a few corners of the bulkhead that look like they're starting to show some wear and tear, but this is not a situation where the bulkhead is underwater, and actually there's a pretty significant elevation difference between the top of the bulkhead and the base of the Potomac. It's right on the Potomac. So more to come on that, but that's an interesting one. Another new one that has recently come in is at 4517 Carlby Lane. So it's up here, and actually we had a site visit. Clyde, when was that? October, where Clyde came, and Dean was scheduled to come, but I think he had a family emergency and couldn't make it. But Clyde was able to see the property, as well as Mark Eversole, and Emily Hain from VIMS was also there. And this is a property where there's a lot of work going on outside and upland of the Wetlands Board, even outside of the RPA. I think that the property owner is trying to keep the project mostly out of the RPA as well, with just some general cleanup. But essentially, the project would include reusing existing riprap with the addition of installing new riprap to construct a sill and create a living shoreline with native plants. So this property owner currently does not have a living shoreline. They just have riprap that appears to have been there for a while. They have a dock that they're going to replace as well, which is more in Mark Eversole's realm. But the initial design is a really interesting project. I think we're hopeful that it will move forward. I combined a letter of my comments, Emily's comments from VIMS, and Mark Eversole's comments from VMRC back to the applicant, and that was a couple weeks ago. So I believe their engineers taking a look at everything and going to resubmit. But essentially, it's going to be a sill like it would traditionally be, out a ways out into the water, with hopefully some openings at least at least one, we're asking for another one for water to flow in and out and back behind a proposed sill. So
So that'll be, is it a breakwater then? Just for you're talking about a breakwater? It's just in such a long fetch area. I'm just curious, is it a true breakwater with a living shoreline behind it? Like what's out at Mason Neck?
you know, it might be one of the comments I believe we had was, do you have any intention of, or can you verify if you plan on planting anything on the sill? Or if it was just more to provide that break in the tide. So I think we're hopeful to get a little bit more information on the next submission. But yeah, I think for the most part, it would be a means to break up those wave actions there.
Yeah, it depends on
So
how high.
Catherine, I'd like to add some comments about this particular application, but not until after you're finished with your
Okay.
presentation.
Okay,
So
sure.
If you don't mind, Kim, let's return to this, because I think it is a worthwhile thing to discuss.
That
Okay,
makes
sure.
sense.
Let's see here. Another application that's not new, that's been routing for the past 6 months ago is on Gunston Road. And this is an application where they want to do some pretty significant grading of the rear of the yard, which would just be mainly in the RPA because of some erosion that's happening. And they've submitted a couple initial drawings. We provided some feedback. They just submitted something, I think it was not last week, but the week before, that I need to take a look at. So Gunston Road is on my desk to complete. But they've got a pretty significant erosion issue. So they're proposing native plants with some riprap. Right now, there's no riprap there, and that is why they have a giant cliff and significant erosion. So I will keep you all apprised of that application as it continues to move forward. The 6061 River Drive, so the other River Drive application, that one, Mark, I'm hoping Mark Ebersol and I will speak about this later next week. I just need to trade notes with him. We received an application back in 2021. We provided comments and we haven't heard anything back. So, and this was an application for just some general shoreline stabilization. But again, that's right kind of on the Potomac. So we just haven't gotten a resubmission. They don't have a bulkhead there right now. So there's no real existing structures, but so I will keep following up with the property owner and see if they want to move forward. And then the Bell River Terrace and let's see, and the 1137 River Road are projects that I've been trying to coordinate with that applicant to get some updated sketches and figure out what's next for them. So more to come on those. But that's my general update. It's been a little quiet recently, but.
All right, Catherine, if it's okay, I'd like to share a screen.
Sure. Let me stop sharing then, and hopefully that'll open it up for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that showing up for everyone?
Yes, I can see that.
So this is just a really quick description of this. This is a very substantial living shoreline project, the most extensive one I've ever seen applied for. And at the end of this, I'm going to ask if the board is all right with me sending a letter to VIMS and VMRC, asking them to expedite and assist the applicant in a way that makes it as easy as possible for them to implement this project in an economical way. So just briefly to describe this, can you ask what this is? Up here on the top, they're putting in an anchoring area below the toe of a sill, a very substantial sill. They're going to put plantings in this marsh seeding area, lower marshal plantings. Then they have separate upper marsh plantings, and then eventually up into the top turf. This area down here, you'll notice it's open here and open here. So this will have a flow through type operation, keeping the area as a living shoreline. I'm sure that VIMS and VMRC will be able to assist them, but I would also, because this really is our first really substantial private living shoreline application, and we didn't demand this, it just came in. I would like authority to send VMRC and VIMS a letter requesting, one, that they expedite this as quickly as they can, two, that they assist the applicants as much as they can, and three, that they try to make the implementation of this as economically viable as possible. So I make that as a motion. And I ask for a second.
This is
I
Dina.
will second.
So any discussion about this? Ask me questions.
Yeah,
how do you
actually,
feel about this?
I've got questions. I guess I'm concerned about supporting something without looking at VIMS or the application, number one, and number two, VIMS's recommendations. So I think it's a little premature. Not that this is probably not a, it's a good application. There are some things that could be better with it, but I just would like to see the application before we go whole hog and supporting it with other agencies.
I'm not suggesting that we support it. I'm asking them to expedite, improve where necessary, and make it as economical as possible. And if I could argue for that case a little bit, I'm worried that regulators will make it difficult for a homeowner to implement something like this. This is not the Army Corps of Engineers or somebody implementing a project. This is a homeowner spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to do something they don't need to do at all. And I'm just concerned that the typical regulatory process that we go through is going to smother this. If they get too many comments, frankly, I'm concerned they'll just walk away. So that's really my reason for wanting to send this letter.
I'm not able to see the detail too clearly on here. Maybe you could talk a little bit about, and apologies if I missed this, but the size or the length of the shoreline that this is going to be covering.
So first of all, there's an existing, failing shoreline at the moment, right? How far is this? I'm going to guess it's on the order of 80 feet. And again, I'm not asking us to approve this. I'm asking that we ask VIMS and VMRC to assist in making it happen, and in doing so in an expeditious manner that is economical.
I'm still not comfortable with that.
I understand.
Without, I mean, Clyde, I'm all about it once we get to see the application
Yeah.
and we all sign off on it, but this is, at this point, they got to go through the process just like everybody else.
Yeah, but the process could smother them, and it doesn't need to. That's really what I'm saying, Ken. And I think we've kind of made it our policy to try to help people who are coming across with living shorelines. And if we ask them to go through the same process with every single detail that might be required if we follow the VMRC guidelines to the letter, you could add a lot of expense to this that is unnecessary. Is it really necessary for them to do a bathymetric study? Is it necessary for them to, lay out the soils conditions back and forth, to hire a geologist to do all the work that VMRC could require them to do? Keep in mind that checklist has costs in it that is very significant. And we have, the authority not to ask for it. But if we go through this process with VIMS and VMRC commenting, they may end up with it.
What is the timing here? Is it possible for us to see the application and then come back together as a group and
yes, and if
and
that's what
then
you
put
if
something
that's what-
together?
yes, and if that's what you would like to do, since we are in the discussion portion of this, what you can do is you can ask for this motion to be tabled and brought back at the next meeting after the first round. But again, VIMS and VMRC are at the moment doing the review. I don't know how long they're going to take, and I don't know how detailed and cumbersome their reaction will be.
Clyde, if I could just clarify that statement.
Yeah.
The letter I sent a few weeks ago, I don't remember the date, but a few weeks ago, included comments from me, comments from Mark Eversaw at VMRC, and comments from Emily at VIMS. So at this point, they have comments from the county wetlands board staff liaison and the state agencies. I don't recall off the top of my head if the Corps had any comments on this project, but at this point, everything that I know of is back with the applicant to consider if it would help, and if you all direct me to, I can send you the location of this JPA on the VMRC website. I can send you the letter that has the combined comments, but I'll do that if you all decide you need that from me.
Well, what I'm really trying to accomplish here is not a very overly difficult application for somebody who's doing something that we say is our goal. That's what I'm trying to facilitate and make happen here. And I think just a reaction of the sense of the board that living shoreline applications should be supported and expedited really would be adequate here. So I
definitely agree with that statement that you just made, Clyde, that I would support and encourage living shorelines. Like Kimberly said, I haven't seen the specific project to respond to what Catherine just said. I would actually really like some more information about this because it's of interest. But I do agree that with you that I support living shorelines wherever possible and want to encourage their construction.
So could we take this out of the context of this particular application and modify the motion to send a letter to VIMS and VMRC that we wish them to expedite and facilitate the application of living shorelines in such a way that decreases the burden on the applicant wherever possible? I think that's really what we've been saying for years.
It doesn't need a letter.
It does. Well, in my opinion, Kim, it does. So let me make this as a specific motion. I'm moving that the Wetlands Board authorized me to send a letter to VIMS and VMRC that the Fairfax County Wetlands Board wishes to support living shorelines and asks that VIMS and VMRC expedite and facilitate the implementation of such living shoreline applications wherever possible. Let me ask, do I have a second? Because if I don't, this is over. Well, okay, hearing no second, the motion to change the original motion dies. So I'm going to call the question on the first motion, which was to request that we send a letter to VIMS and VMRC that that they facilitate and expedite this particular application. So I'm going to call that question, and I'm going to ask for a roll call vote. Catherine, could you do a roll call vote of the members, please?
Yes, sorry, I just need to find my unmute button. Okay. So I'll start with you, Clyde. Clyde Wilbur.
I vote in favor.
Okay. Bert Kramer.
Against.
Dina Crumbling.
Against,
Dean Costello. I don't think he's here, but Kim Larkin.
Against.
I'll see if John Collins is on the line. Okay, and Arlie Dade.
Against.
Okay, Catherine, let's move on to the next agenda item. Motion fails.
Catherine, you're muted.
I'm sorry. Anyway, let me start again. So we have just a few housekeeping items before we move on to the public comment portion of the meeting tonight. I wanted to see if there was any interest in trying to establish a date for the next Wetlands Board meeting. If there is, we can discuss that now.
So, Catherine, are there any upcoming events that you think you're going to need a meeting for?
Well, we may have one or two JPAs that may be ready for a public hearing for the Wetlands Board, one being at on Green Drive, depending on how things shake out over the next couple weeks. So, but that might be a meeting that I need to set based on public notification of a public hearing. So typically, I think I'd probably want to reach out separately to determine a date that's not only going to work for the applicant, but for the Wetlands Board. Other than that, I'm not sure that we have any other items to meet about, really.
Well, then I don't think we need to set a meeting date then. If you'd prefer to wait until you have a notice for a hearing situation, I don't think there's a reason to set another meeting date.
Sure. Okay, that works for me. Moving on. Let's see here. I sent an email back in October, early October, with the March 30th and August 31st meeting minutes. So I'm hoping that you all had a chance to take a look at them and might be able to consider approving them.
So let me move the March notes meeting minutes for consideration. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion about the March notes?
Just a quick question. I do not vote on this, right? Since I wasn't a board member yet.
Correct. I think what you can do simply is recuse yourself because you weren't at the meeting, right?
Right. Yeah, I'll abstain. Thank you.
That's the simple reaction, I think.
Okay.
Any more discussion? All right, I'd like to call the question. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? And you do need to actually recuse yourself.
I'll abstain or recuse myself from the vote.
Very good. Technically, I should ask for every one of these votes if people need to recuse. But so please, if you ever need to do that, please jump in. Secondly, I'd like to move the August notes for review and approval. Do I have a second?
I'll second the August. notes.
Any discussion of the August notes? Thank you, Kim. Hearing none, does anyone recuse themselves from the August notes?
I recuse myself.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. So before we move into the public comment section, I'd like to ask, do any of the board members have anything else they would like to discuss? Okay, hearing none. Kimberly, could you open the public comment period and ask for anyone who would wish to speak?
Sure. And I was hoping, if it's all right with everybody, with the Wetlands Board members, we had 2 parties reach out ahead of time and ask that they be able to speak during this public comment period. One being Olivia Sand and the other being, I believe, Kristen from the rec club, in the area of the JPA application on Green Drive. So since they reached out first, I would like to offer them each 5 minutes to have their public comment time. If that approach is suitable for all the Wetlands Board members, I think that would be best. And then we'll just go down the line from there. Does that sound good to everyone? Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen too. Okay, Olivia, why don't you go ahead and get started if you're ready.
Sure. Okay. Thank you so much. So good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to provide a status update tonight on our property at 10625 Green Drive in Wharton. We wanted to first thank the board and the county personnel for all your time and attention to this matter. We sincerely appreciate it and understand it's been a challenge over the past year. At this time, I do believe that our JPA package meets all of the relevant county requirements. On October 26th, we responded to Katie's questions following what Shoreline had submitted and provided a revised plan with additional planting details as was requested. We've not heard anything further since that time and do not believe anything is outstanding. We've also confirmed that with Shoreline as well. Additionally, we've been working with the Harborview Recreation Club, Inc., and I understand you'll hear from Kristen, to come to an agreement which would allow us both to comply with the county's direction to proceed with the permit process. I believe we have come to an agreement with HVRC, which will allow us to submit the completed JPA prior to the completion of the boundary line adjustment that I believe you understand is currently in process. This afternoon, we provided a draft to Katie, Mark Gorey, and Mark Eversole for consideration. I apologize for the late notice and understand the board may not have had time to review yet. I did want to just briefly note the terms of this agreement. HVRC would give us permission to proceed through the county permit process without their involvement, and we would accept related responsibility and liability. Then, if a permit is approved by this board, we would agree to pause until the boundary line adjustment is completed, if it isn't already at that time, which we're hoping it will be, until the new deed is recorded, and then at that time, we would be able to proceed. But until then, we'd refrain from seeking an after-the-fact permit from VMRC if such a permit is required, and refrain from starting any construction. And for your awareness, the boundary line adjustment will give us full ownership and clear title to the land where the boathouse and bulkhead construction is occurring, and remove the property interests that VMRC may have. Our new boundary line will extend a few inches into Macy Creek. My understanding is that the current and future boundary lines are both reflected in our updated GPA materials. The request for a boundary line adjustment was submitted to the county in August. We've been told that all identified issues were resolved on October 21st. Unfortunately, as you may know, the county recently changed systems, and so unfortunately, there have been problems uploading the materials and getting them to the right people. This is actively being worked, and we do remain hopeful that the boundary line adjustment will be completed soon, ideally before the board even holds the public hearing on this GPA. At this time, once the board has an opportunity to review the provided agreement today, we respectfully request that the board approves of this proposed way forward so that we can sign and submit the agreement prior to our December 7th deadline next week. This would complete our JPA and result in our mutual compliance with this board's direction. Again, we thank you for your time this evening and for considering our request. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have if that's allowable and appropriate at this time.
All right, thanks, Livia. Appreciate that. All right, so moving on to Kristen. Correct me if I'm wrong, if you wanted to go ahead and if you have anything that you wanted to say for the Wetlands Board.
Hi, Catherine. I'm here with several members of the Harborview Rec Club Board of Directors, and we don't have anything else to add at this time. Thank you to Olivia for her summary that she gave.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Kristen. Okay, so moving down the line, we've got a few folks on here, as I mentioned, so I'm just gonna go through the list as I see folks. Oh, I'm sorry, Clyde, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just back to Olivia for just a moment.
Sure.
Could you succinctly just state the request you're making to the board?
Yes, sir. So our understanding was that we could come to an agreement with HVRC under which we would be able to proceed for this agreement. And so in my conversations with Mr. Gorey, I just wasn't clear whether or not we could submit the agreement and we would be allowed to proceed, or whether the board had to approve of the proposed agreement that we had. And so I'm simply asking that the agreement that we provided in draft form is sufficient so that we will be able to have it signed and executed and submitted, and then be able to proceed with our JPA. Does that help, sir?
So you're asking if the condition you're at now allows you to make the application. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You also mentioned that if it is not complete, you would like to pause the start of construction.
Sure. So I apologize for not being clear. At this point in time, our understanding based on conversations with the county is that we have to comply with the 90-day direction to be able to submit a completed GPA. Due to the current property issue that we have with HVRC, that would require either HVRC to co-sign our agreement or for us to come to a separate agreement under which they would allow us to proceed with the permit process with their permission, given this current boundary line adjustment that's in place. And so we've created an agreement under which they would allow us to proceed with our permit process. And so we would do that. We would go through the county process and have the public hearing and go through that process. At that point in time, our hope is that the boundary line adjustment would be completed, and that would negate any involvement of HVRC. But if it's not, if something happens and the unknown occurs, then at that point in time, we would agree to not start any construction and to wait until, if we have to go to VMRC, which is still up in the air, we would wait at that time because VMRC has told us that HVRC would need to co-sign. So we're simply trying to protect both of our interests and come to an agreement so that we can move this process forward. And we're hoping that the agreement that we submitted would allow us to at least take this next step in the process to get through the public hearing to have this board vote on our JPA.
So you've made a position known to the county attorney. What you would like is for that to be approved to allow us to proceed with the hearing. Are you asking for an extension of the deadline?
Initially, sir, my intent was that I didn't think we would have a choice. However, as of this afternoon, we were informed that we believe that we have an agreement with HVRC on the latest terms that we've discussed. So I don't think we need an extension for the county process at this time.
So then the only thing you're asking for really is an approval of the agreement and the potential for a pause.
After the county process completes. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I understand.
Sure, I apologize for being confusing.
All right, Catherine, back to you.
Okay, great, thanks. Let's see here. So starting at the top of my list, Gail Fisher. If you would like to say anything, feel free to unmute yourself. Okay, next I see on my screen, Larry Zaragoza.
I'm just here to listen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Next on my list, I see Jay Spiegel.
Yes, I wasn't really anticipating speaking, but I am curious, as long as I'm watching this hearing, what the Wetlands Board's position is on efforts to amend the living shorelines law so that people who already have existing shoreline improvements can have them grandfathered in if they are somehow damaged or in otherwise need of repair. This is something that is badly needed in the law. The law is extremely flawed. And I was curious what the Wetlands Board's position is on efforts to seek to amend that law so that it's more equitable to people who already have shoreline improvements on their properties. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much. And let's see here, moving on, see Beth. If you would like to share anything with the Wetlands Board, now's your chance. Okay, and then last but not least, I see a cell phone number that's 703-554-4706. If you are the owner of that cell phone number and would like to speak to the Wetlands Board during this public comment. Oh, they just hung up, so never mind. All righty. I think that's everyone that I see who might be from the public on the line.
Okay, Catherine, do we now move to the closed session?
Yes.
Okay,
That seems perfect.
so for everyone that's here, I'm going to make a motion for a closed session. I move that the Fairfax County Wetlands Board go into closed session with an attorney from the county attorney's office to discuss specific legal matters requiring the provisions of legal advice relating to the property more particularly described as the Fairfax County Tax Map number tax map reference 113-41 parcel 28A, and specifically regarding the authority granted to the Wetlands Board by the Board of Supervisors under the Wetlands Zoning Ordinance, Chapter 116 of the Fairfax County Code and Virginia Code 281-1316, and set forth in its bylaws, all as permitted by the Virginia Code 2.2-3711A8. I ask for a second for this motion.
I'll second, it's Kim.
All those in favor, any discussion about the motion? Any recusal? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Raise your
Aye.
hand.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes, and we will proceed into closed session. Thank you all in the public who have participated today.
Can I have 1 second just to remove folks who are not on the Wetlands Board? Sorry. I should have given everyone a heads up about that. Okay. All right, I kicked everyone out, so I hope they're not offended.
Okay. Mark, I think you have the floor.
Well, I guess we should start by addressing Ms. Sands' comments to the board. If there are any questions, you should feel free to ask. They did send us a draft agreement
Yeah.
between the rec club and the Sands